Happy birthday cake. Happy birthday, pin the tail on the seahorse. Happy birthday, Squidward.
Welcome to the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast.
Yeah, I felt that opening was fitting for two reasons. One, because of the movie, and that being the theme of the movie. And then two is because it was, by the time this is out, it'll be 3 days after your birthday. So,
Yes, it will. Yeah, the December birthday is always fun. Yeah. Like I like having a December birthday, but I love you see when you're in school, you have all these people who have like these like beach parties and stuff. But for me, it was always indoor stuff, and I never got to enjoy that. But yeah, I'm turning 30. You've already turned 30, so you can tell me in advance what that's like.
it's a lot similar to 29, except you're 30. That's about it.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing is that like there's this big scary thing. You're turning 30, your 20s are over. It's like my 20s were shit. Like I had no idea what was going on. I feel like this is definitely the time where this is the time I'm going to get my shit together. You just watch me.
Yeah, and I kind of feel the same way. Like the latter half of my 20s were okay. The first half of my 20s were absolute hot garbage. So I mean, there is a thing where it's like it's slowly gotten better, but I think I'm going to enjoy my 30s overall a lot more than I did my 20s. So. Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. It's brutal because like you're supposed to have all this shit together. Society expects all this shit from you, and then you of course you're never going to like achieve that, and then you just sort of settle into your 30s. And I'm excited for it. Honestly, it's something I welcome, and it's something I recommend anyone else that's afraid of turning 30 or being in your 30s to just sort of accept, because it's not a big deal. It's just another year. It's not much different. It's a one difference away from 29. I'm still young. I'm still hip. I understand skibbity toilet, like as a concept. Like I've watched YouTube poops. I've watched Gmod videos. I'm still cool.
I don't know.
I'm still hip.
I don't know if watching YouTube poops is a really modern thing that young people do, but okay.
It's the same thing is what I'm saying. I'm saying skibbity toilet is just Gmod videos. It's the same thing.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I'm cool. I'm hip.
Yeah. I mean,
well, yeah.
I wasn't sure where you were going for that for a second. I thought you were going to say that you recommend all people who are worried about turning 30 turn 30. Which I was like, okay, I guess that's good advice. I mean,
yeah, the alternative is probably not very good.
Yeah, exactly. So,
that would be pretty irresponsible of me to just be like, if you're turning 30, consider not turning 30. Oh my god. But yeah, enough about my birthday. Someone else has a very special birthday coming up shortly after this episode comes out. And do you know who that is, Ian?
No.
Jesus.
It's not true because he was not born on December 25th.
It's Happy Birthday, Jesus. Happy birthday, Jesus. I am so happy that it's Jesus' birthday and that we can enjoy all of the amazing Christmas movies that come out around the time that Jesus was born. That is a fact. You can't disprove it because you weren't there. So I thought before we get into the ritual, which is our exceptional movie that we're going to be talking about today. Why don't we talk a little bit about some of the Christmas movies that we grew up with, Christmas movies that we like better than others, good ones, bad ones. I just think it would be nice to go over it because we're so bad at making seasonal episodes that this is my best attempt.
Right, fair.
Yeah. So, what, like, in your mind, what's the first Christmas movie you can think of? Like, what's the one that comes to your mind when you think of a Christmas movie?
As in, like, the most iconic or, like, my favorite?
I don't, not even either of those. Like, I guess to be more basic, what's the first Christmas movie you remember watching?
It's a fair question. I mean, to be honest, like, when you think of, like, Christmas, like, I think of, like, specials before movies, like The Grinch or Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, when I was a kid, first one, I mean, Christmas Story was very early on. That would have been one of the first ones I watched. I watched that,
yeah.
that was one where they had it, like, on all the time on television, and there was, like, a channel that played it literally 24/7, like, in anticipation for Christmas. And, yeah, so that would have been one of them. Home Alone, I guess, would be another one for sure that I watched when I was a kid, a lot. So,
Actually, as a kid, I never saw the first Home Alone until I was like 10 or 11. I every year I would watch Home Alone 2. I don't even know how it happened because it would always just be on TV, but I'd never seen the original Home Alone. It was like every time I was at my grandparents' place or something, they were playing Home Alone 2. Now that I've seen Home Alone 1, I really wasn't missing much because they are essentially the exact same movie with a difference in setting. That's the only thing that's different.
yeah. And actually, there's, like, some parts of Home Alone 2 that are actually just as iconic as the first one. Pretty much Tim Curry as the hotel manager is the reason to watch. But
yeah, one thing I thought was really weird about Home Alone 2 is it's a lot less cartoony when you get down to like the robbers and like how they get like tricked into these like traps and stuff. Like everything is a lot more brutal and violent. It's like they looked at the first movie and thought it wasn't violent enough, and everything needed to be a whole lot more gritty and I don't want to say realistic, but like that iconic shot of Pesci getting his head caught on fire in Home Alone 1 is redone in this movie, but it's just like his head is just on fire and he's burning, and it's a whole lot more upsetting.
Yeah. Home Alone 2 definitely made me want to throw bricks at people from a rooftop because I thought that'd be funny. Thankfully, I never did it. Thankfully, no, I never did it, but that would have ended badly.
Yeah, like that is, again, that's what I'm saying. That's like one of the most brutal things that happens in that whole series, which is funny because Home Alone is just one of those series that had one good movie, one pretty good movie, and then just a whole bunch of misses. Like you really, I don't know how many times you need to try to make a follow up to a movie like this before you realize that there's no way that you're gonna salvage it and make like an actually good movie. It's just its own thing.
I don't think that was ever the intention for any of the Home Alone sequels past the second one. So I think it was just cash grab stuff.
Yeah,
so that's why.
Yeah, which is like, because even I as a dumb kid knew that just from looking at the boxes of these movies, it's like, okay, well, they got a new kid. So, like, and I understand that you can make a follow up to a movie while replacing your main character. It makes sense. Well, I guess it makes sense to want if you have a good idea, but at this point, it was just the idea of making this movie into a series is a bad idea because they're all based around kids. So these kids can't return, so you can't like continue to build on these characters. As you make more movies, it just has to be a new kid every time because from the old kid grew up.
Yeah.
Like, just based on how quickly they grow up.
Yeah. But I actually, if there was a Home Alone sequel that was about adult Macaulay Culkin, and it was like a horror home invasion movie. Like that would be pretty great. Honestly, I would watch that.
Like Don't Breathe or something. Like just
Yeah,
like it's really like oh, and Macaulay Culkin is having his renaissance. I believe he's getting a lot more popular now in different ways. I guess more online than like how big he was back when in his
yeah, because I think he got into like
in his child star era.
yeah, I think like after his child star era happened, if I'm not mistaken, he got into like drugs and he like went to rehab and stuff. And so, I mean, he pulled himself out of that and he started to like go online and have like a cult following there. But I like I've seen him like on Angry Video Game Nerd and Red Letter Media, and I've seen him with Greg Sestero.
Oh yeah,
And so like he's pretty on the pulse when it comes to like internet memes and stuff. So yeah, it's
yeah,
good to see him
exactly. Which is
back.
great because yeah. Yeah, I guess it's a cliche to think about these like child stars as these washed up nobodies, but that's not him at all. He's clearly found his own niche that he's carved out, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think he has to work another day in his life. I mean, Home Alone, especially around Christmas time, it makes residuals every single year.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. He probably doesn't need to do anything. He's just able to coast off of Home Alone 2 alone,
yeah,
let alone
exactly.
Home Alone 1.
Yeah, and then every once in
Yeah,
a
he's
while,
set.
somebody will watch My Girl or Getting Even with Dad as well. So it'll be like, yeah,
Or the Good Son. Was that movie with
yeah,
Elijah Wood?
yeah. That was the good son.
Oh, that honestly, I've watched that movie maybe once or twice in my life. I kind of like it. Like it's really dumb, but like it's fun. It's really good in like a cheesy B movie way.
Honestly, I've never seen it other than like the clips that were in the Nostalgia Critic review, and so like
Yeah,
the good son, like it seems so stupid to take seriously. So I mean, I don't. Maybe I would kind of find it funny, but
yeah. In terms of Christmas movies, I was just thinking of like what is the most. Um, I guess the ones that I think about the most when I think about the season, the holidays.
mm.
The first Christmas movie I remember watching is this funny. It's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but not the special. It was like a direct to DVD animated Rudolph movie
I remember
where he
that piece
fights
of
like an
shit.
ice queen.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was horrible. And oh my god, it's so terrible. And I remember that was that's the first Christmas movie I remember watching, and I watched it again recently with Avery, and it's fucking terrible. Like one of the like what are we doing here types of like writing and decisions, and like the animation is just terrible, and like how did we do this? And I guess I understand that like around Christmas, when it comes to like Christmas and bring back like characters related to like I guess the mythos of Christmas, it's like so easy to just throw together some bullshit and release it. And that's true today, even compared to that movie. But it's so hard to actually find something that gives a shit and is not just trying to like pump something out for the holidays.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's such a. I mean, it's kind of a thing where like everybody kind of knows the whole commercial aspect of Christmas and the criticisms of how cynical it is and stuff like that, and that's very kind of
Yeah.
true, especially with a lot of the stuff that comes out nowadays. But it's funny you mentioned the old Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which was maybe the first one I saw actually, like the first Christmas movie. But I've never seen any of the other Rankin Bass Christmas specials ever. Like I've never seen Santa Claus is
Really?
Coming to Town or whatever ones, or yeah, like that's the only one I've seen.
I was about to say Santa Claus is coming to town. Plays in my house at least once a year, even now. Once like Yeah, no, that was always on TV. That I think I've seen that more than Rudolph, honestly, and that's like one of my favorites. That's just a personal opinion because they all have their ups and downs, but I think it's an interesting take on, like, I guess the mythos of Santa Claus. I guess
Yeah.
you would say. Yeah, I think that one's really good. I think you'd really
Kind of
enjoy
like
it.
Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah. Oh,
That's another good one. The original Miracle on 34th Street. Do not watch the 90s remake with, what's her name? Matilda.
oh,
Blanking on her name. Fuck.
I am also blanking on her
Mara
name.
Wilson. Right.
Mara Wilson. That's it. Yes. Um,
Yeah.
when I think about Christmas movies, like, do you have a movie that your family like watches every year, or is that not a thing? Is it just you just watch whatever's on?
I wouldn't say we have a movie. I mean, we definitely always put on Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown. We definitely
Right.
always put on the animated Grinch. We definitely always put. Oh, I mean, the original animated Grinch because there's another animated Grinch now,
Yeah.
which I've never seen the Illumination one. I'm trying to think. Is there any movie that we? I mean, when we were a kid, like we would always watch A Christmas Story because it'd always just be on some channel.
Right.
There was always Home Alone would be one that we would watch a lot, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure other than those ones.
Yeah.
But
The movie.
like later on, I started to get into like I didn't see It's a Wonderful Life until I was in like my teens, for
Oh
example.
yeah.
So
See, that's how I was with the Christmas Story. I don't know how I managed it, but when I was in my early teens, that's when I first saw it, and it's a really great
yeah,
movie. I wonder if it's more beloved by people who grew up with it, or if it just, I don't know. It's hard to say. Um, I know that it's got sequels, and I know that they're all terrible too.
well, it's kind of interesting because it has two sequels, but they neither of the sequels have anything to do with each other. There's A Christmas Story 2, which is I think like a direct to DVD thing that they did like 10 years ago or something. But I found out in the 90s Bob Clark made My Summer Story, and
Okay.
I've never heard anybody ever talk about it. I've just I looked it up and I found it. I've never heard anything about it, but it does star Ralphie and it does follow them, and I think it might even have like the same narration voice from the original.
Really?
So I've always been intrigued. Like I can't imagine it's that good because I think if it was, we would have heard about it by now or something about it. But
Yeah.
I've always been interested in checking out My Summer Story.
Well, maybe in the summer. Maybe that's one we'll do. In terms of movies that we watch every year, I don't know when it started, but Elf comes on at least once a year. What's your opinion on that
Oh yeah, that's
movie?
the one that we watch everywhere. That
Yeah,
is one we watch once a year. Now that I think about it, especially my sister is absolutely obsessed with it. I enjoy
yeah,
Elf. I think it's funny. Yeah, it's like I can understand why people would find it annoying or like some of the jokes don't work, but like I think that it was one of those things where like Will Ferrell was just fresh off of SNL and he
yeah,
wasn't doing like those awful SNL movies like Superstar or Night at the Roxbury that he did. And so
yeah,
like he was he was kind of like kind of finding his footing in that like more wide audience thing, and I think Elf is good.
oh yeah.
I think it's
No,
funny. I don't think it's great, but I think that like I do have a lot of nostalgia for it, and I don't know, like even I can if you're not a fan of Will Ferrell at all, you probably won't like it. I think
oh
Will Ferrell
yeah,
can be funny, and I think that was one of examples where he was funny. So
yeah, exactly. There's this over the top type of performance that he's giving in that sort of that was pretty popular in the mid 2000s, even the early 2000s. Like he's basically, it's not to the same degree, but Jim Carrey's The Grinch from 2000 or 1999. I can't even remember exactly when it came out, but I remember that movie being on a lot, and I remember my mother hating it. And I remember her because she hates Jim Carrey so much. She hates him with a fiery passion, and I was a big fan of Jim Carrey as a kid. And I wonder, going back to that movie, if it's any good, because like in the moment, it's like, okay, yeah, this Jim Carrey over the top remake of how the Grinch Stole Christmas is probably bad, but like, I've been surprised before. Maybe it's okay. I don't. A lot of people these days are calling it like an iconic performance for him, and like, I don't know if I would like include that with like Ace Ventura or even anything he did on TV or anything like that. Like, it's not quite at the same level, you know.
What did he do on TV other than In Living Color?
Oh, In Living Color is what I meant, but I lost the words.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
that is an amazing show. Like, in Living Color, I gotta say, just going on a tangent, but other than The Kids in the Hall, that's probably my favorite sketch comedy show of all time. Like, I absolutely love it. But
yeah.
Like Jim Carrey is one where like I was a huge fan of him when I was a kid. A lot of his movies are him doing like the over the top cartoony thing, and The Grinch, I think, is one where it doesn't hold up as well as some of like the other ones, like Liar Liar or like Dumb and Dumber or those type of movies, or The Mask even. I will say though, like the amount of like makeup and everything that he goes through and like the costuming for the Grinch and the fact that he's still able to like be super animated in that getup is pretty impressive. And if you watch The Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers, you can see how fucking stiff Mike Myers and how much trouble he's having like moving around in that cat suit. So I mean, like Jim Carrey was able to do a lot more with that than Mike Myers was. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that is another thing is he's almost unrecognizable. Like just so many layers of prosthetics on him. You can barely tell it's him. The only way you can really tell is just from the body language and the characteristics that he shows off, and
the voice too.
Yeah, exactly. It's despite how good the movie may be, his performance is really incredible.
Yeah, and he's actually, even though he retired, he's coming back this weekend for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So
yeah, big movie coming out. I actually haven't seen Sonic 2, but maybe I should check that out.
Sonic 2 is better than the first one. I would recommend it. Because it's just, there's so many more scenes where it's just not humans, and it's like, it's Sonic and Tails and Knuckles and Eggman, and it looks like this movie's going to be even more like that, but with Shadow, so...
Yeah, Keanu Reeves' Shadow, which I think is probably the best choice they could have made for that. Like, I couldn't think of anyone else playing that character. It was just too perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what Christmas television specials or stuff do you remember? Like, the ones that really stick out in your mind? Are there any of them?
There's a couple. The ones that stick out in my mind are usually I seek out these Christmas specials whenever they like interest me. Otherwise, it was very hard to keep my attention as a kid. I didn't like tape things very often, but I forced my mother to figure out how the VCR worked to tape Sonic Christmas Blast on Teletoon for me when it aired one year, and I watched it pretty much every Christmas until I lost that tape, and it was really terrible. I'll say in retrospect, it's a terrible Christmas special because it's from the terrible Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog show, which I was really disappointed in. I saw an ad for it on TV, and I was like, "Mom, you need to tape this," and then she taped it, and it was really awful, and I was really disappointed. But as a kid, I was like Sonic pilled beyond like anything you could possibly imagine, so I still watched it even though I didn't like it.
Actually, I don't think that it's hard for people to imagine that nowadays with the internet and so many people are Sonic filled.
Yeah.
Remember when we made that top 10 reasons Sonic sucks
oh my gosh.
video? That was a highlight of our early YouTube career. But
Yeah, for real. Even before we started doing this, I guess not full time, but more seriously, that was such a funny thing to keep going back to every couple of months and just seeing all the comments that were left.
yeah, with Sonic Christmas Blast, I remember I actually rented the VHS, or no, I think I bought it, and I was not familiar with the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, the TV show, but I was familiar with the Sonic Sat AM TV show, which I liked
Yes.
way more than Sonic X. I liked way more than Sonic Underground, and I thought this was part of the Sonic Sat AM TV show. And then when I watched it, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not like Sonic is the same voice, but that's about it. Like, I was really confused, and it was Deke. So I was like, is this like some weird, like, I don't like, was this some sort of weird special they did that had nothing to do with the rest of the series? And like, so yeah, I was really thrown off by that.
Yeah, but I think there's a character. I think Sally from the Sat AM series shows up for like 5 seconds, but she's like pink, but it's clearly still her. It's very weird. I was very confused.
It was probably just a reused asset that they had.
Yeah, probably.
I actually like that show, The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. I think it's crazy off the wall insanity, but I do think like it's trying to be like a send up of like Looney Tunes and stuff like that. And while I
Yeah.
don't think it's the best send up of Looney Tunes, like it's no Animaniacs or anything like that, but like I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, like I think it's hard to be compared to Sonic Sat AM, which is like its own thing. Clearly, like it's not that at all. It's very much like almost like a serious sci-fi show. It's weird that they made two shows. Like, why make two? That's so confusing.
Well, they made three actually. Another one with Jaleel White, which was Sonic Underground, which was
Oh my
actually
God,
kind of
yeah.
trying to be more in the tone of Sonic Sat AM, but that was way worse. And then,
Well, it's because if you ever look at the animation of that show, it's like they had zero money. It's so bizarre. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that show because it was one of those things like where it was on TV while I was in school, and I wanted to talk to people about Sonic, like real Sonic, but all they knew was Sonic Underground, and it made me so frustrated because it was dumb and not right, and that's not real Sonic. Oh.
Sonic Underground. Sonic Underground. I haven't actually. The most recent Sonic show I've watched is Sonic X. I haven't seen Sonic Boom, which I hear is good, and I haven't seen. I think there's a few other shows that came out since then, but I haven't seen them. So
Yeah, there's a Sonic show on Netflix that has its own continuity, and there's also a Knuckles show on Paramount Plus, which I have only heard. The only thing I've heard about it is it doesn't have Knuckles in it very much. There's like 4 episodes straight where Knuckles does not show up, and it's like, what are we doing here?
brilliant.
Brilliant. But yeah, what
Any
other?
Christmas
Yeah,
specials you want to mention, or Christmas movies?
Yeah, there's
There's actually I can bring something up. So like
yeah.
my therapist is Jewish, so the last year she recommended that I watch Fiddler on the Roof, and so I
Oh,
did
really?
because it's a big thing in her household, and I did, and it's actually pretty fun. Yeah, it's a good little Hanukkah movie, which is kind of an interesting thing that we don't see very much, even though apparently the Jews run Hollywood. We don't get to see very many Hanukkah movies. So
Yeah, it's weird how that works. You'd think if I ran Hollywood, I would assume that I could make as many Hanukkah movies as I wanted. If gun to my head, if someone told me to name a Hanukkah movie, I wouldn't name Fiddler on the Roof. I didn't know that was about Hanukkah. The only thing I would name was 8 Crazy Nights because the only one I've seen.
Yeah, that's fair. That's another one. So
Have you actually seen that movie?
There's also the Rugrats specials. No, I haven't.
Yeah, my mother took me to see that because it was like a cartoon and it was the holidays, and she thought it would be a nice movie for us to see, and it was not. She was horrified when she almost took me out of the theater, but I didn't want to leave. Man, that's so funny. I've been meaning to go back and watch it again. It sounds like it might be a fun time. But yeah. Yeah, like, you know what? I think the best thing we can do right now, to end off this discussion is the question, and you might groan at this, but I want to ask: what's your position on the Die Hard the Die Hard holiday movie discourse? Like, I don't know if people still debate this at all, but if nobody understands the famous action movie Die Hard, starring Bruce Willis,
I don't think you need to explain. I think
you
people know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so is Die Hard a Christmas movie because it takes place on Christmas?
I mean, you could watch it around Christmas. There's no problem with that. It probably...
Yeah.
I wish that every subsequent Die Hard movie took place around another holiday. So, like, one of them would be Halloween, one of them would be Valentine's Day, one of them would be Mother's Day, and then, like, they all had that kind of theme going. I'd be more willing to call Die Hard a full-on Christmas movie if it kept that motif going for its sequels in each one. But I mean, I won't. It's to me, it's not really an important debate. I don't really care. My question is like, why aren't we talking about Rambo and Lethal Weapon, because those take place around Christmas too? So why are those never in the discussion?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think about the Rambo, but I watched Lethal Weapon a couple years ago, and yeah, that movie 100% could be a Christmas movie. Like, that's the thing. That's the thing is Die Hard. I don't need an excuse to watch Die Hard. Like, it doesn't need to be like what if you watch a Christmas movie in like March or July, like, you're weird. But you can watch Die Hard whenever you want. It doesn't matter if it takes place on Christmas. Labeling it like that will just sort of make you want to watch it on a specific date when you can just watch it whenever. That's the best part about Die Hard.
That's the thing, is it might give people incentive to like watch it once a year if they're like interested in it. But
I guess
if you're talking about like a non-traditional Christmas movie, I honestly prefer Gremlins to Die Hard.
Yes, there now you're.
I mean, I love Die Hard, but
now we're talking. I love Gremlins. I'm a big fan of that movie. I'm a big fan of traumatizing kids by getting them to like go to movies that they think are going to be fun from the marketing, and then they're really, really dark and violent. It's really great. Yeah. I love that.
Especially in the 80s, that was a big thing.
Yeah. No more of this baby stuff. Get some hair on your chest.
Yeah. So I guess my question to end it off is like, what's your favorite Christmas movie or Christmas special?
What's my favorite Christmas movie or Christmas special? If we're gonna talk about Christmas specials, again, this isn't based on any like quality or anything, but I think Santa Claus is Coming to Town is the one that I think about the very most. Whenever we think about TV specials, that's probably my favorite. It has a lot of heart, and it makes me think about Christmas, I guess. And I guess that's what was the main idea behind these Christmas specials, was to have like almost like a brand association, but like it works. It makes it feel like Christmas whenever it's on. Same with like The Grinch and Rudolph. Like it makes you feel in that spirit, especially because now that I'm older, again, I'm going to be 30 by the time this episode comes out. Christmas doesn't feel the same as it does when you're a kid. When you're a kid, it's this huge, big event, and it just sort of breezes by when you're older. And movies like that help you feel like that childlike sense of wonder, I guess is the best way to put it. It puts you back in that position when you're older, which I guess that makes me sound pretty old, and I guess that's pretty quick since I haven't even turned 30 yet. But that's what I'll say about Santa Claus is Coming to Town. The other Rankin Bass specials, they make you. I guess not all of them, but the good ones. They make you feel like. they make you feel like a kid again when you watch them. In terms of best Christmas movie, that's a really good question. I don't know if I've got like a favorite. It's hard to narrow down because I don't know. There's so many factors to it. I would say I haven't even mentioned it, but I think National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. That's probably the one that I have the most fun watching. That's Avery's family's favorite movie to watch around the holidays, and I only started watching it like every year because of Avery's family, and it's way funnier than when I first started. I was like, I remembered it being pretty funny, but every time I watch it, it almost gets funnier. I pick up on more things, and it's the thinking man's Christmas movie. I'm gonna say National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, favorite Christmas movie, as of right now.
Fair enough. It's actually kind of funny. I watched that movie a bunch, and I never saw any of the other vacation movies until last year. They were doing like a screening of the original Vacation, so I've only seen two of them now. But like the Christmas one is the one I'm the most familiar with.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
Yeah, and so for me, the special's kind of hard for me to pick. Uh, there was one. Well, it's not really Christmas themed, but you know the special called The Snowman.
Yes, I know that one.
Yeah, yeah, the one where like they're flying around and it's like all made out of like, or it looks like charcoal and stuff, and then they have like the songs, and yeah, that's a really great atmospheric. In terms of just like Christmas atmosphere, I don't think you can get better than that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, like for I don't know, best Christmas special for me though is probably I'm gonna have to go with my boy Charlie Brown. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that there is nothing wrong with Charlie Brown Christmas. Like again, if you want to talk about atmosphere, the soundtrack for that movie makes me it unlocks something primal. It's like it switches me to festive mode, like jolly mode or something. It is just something so simple about it. It just it's perfect.
yeah, and for great favorite Christmas movie, it's actually kind of surprisingly an easy answer for me, and it's one that you haven't brought up yet, and I haven't brought up yet, but it's Aardman's Arthur Christmas. So
Oh my god. Yes, Arthur. Oh my god, I hadn't even thought about Arthur Christmas. I haven't seen that movie in forever.
yeah,
That absolutely. Yeah, if you haven't seen that movie, go check that out. I completely forgot that was Arbin.
yeah, that was one of the two movies that they did that was not claymation, it was CG because they had that big fire at Aardman Studios which burned down a bunch of their stuff, and for years after that like flushed away, and Arthur Christmas was the way that they made movies, even though it was done in the same like kind of stop motion style. And even though it's not stop motion, and I'm a big proponent of stop motion movies and everything, Arthur Christmas still might be my favorite Aardman, all things considered. So it's just how good it is. And they're coming out with a new Wallace and Gromit movie this year. So the world of claymation seems to be lighting up because recently I saw Memoir of a Snail, which was the second movie from Adam
Oh
Elliott,
yeah.
who made Mary and Max, and it was excellent. And everybody should check out Memoir of a Snail. It's probably not going to get a wide release, but whenever you can, I would recommend checking it out.
Awesome. Yeah, check out Memoir of a Snail. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I love stop motion and I guess claymation. It just got such a charming look to it. And
Yeah.
yeah, check it out.
It might even be my favorite type of animation, like even more than like traditional 2D animation.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I might go that far.
Yeah. No, it's just there's a level of creativity that isn't present in other forms, and
Yeah,
I can definitely understand where you're coming from.
yeah, exactly. I mean, even like
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of Robot Chicken, but I love the animation on Robot Chicken. I think it's absolutely the highlight of the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was, yeah, I hope you had a holly jolly time with that segment. Anyway, so
Mazel
we're gonna
tov.
take a we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back with The Ritual by Hideki Anno. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. This is our podcast. I hope you're enjoying it. This is our next segment, and it is going to be a film discussion. This movie was recommended by you, Ian. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about The Ritual by Hideki Anno?
Okay, so The Ritual, and I cannot for the life of me remember where the fuck I heard about this movie. I think I even saw it before I ever even saw Evangelion, to be honest. I think I was, like,
Oh,
knowing me, I was
wow.
just probably on a website looking for, like, weird Japanese movies or obscure Japanese horror or whatever, and I found this, and I think I saw, like, it had good reviews, and I probably saw the premise, which I was, like, intrigued by, and so basically, this movie is about a director, and neither of the characters have names. Like, they're literally referred to as the director and the woman, or she. Um, there's a
Yeah.
director who goes back to his hometown for 30 days, and instead of meeting with his family or friends or anybody from his past, he finds this really strange woman who keeps claiming that tomorrow is her birthday. And so he starts to follow her around, he starts to film her, and then they start to create a bond, and there's sort of a relationship that happens, and you start to find out more about her life and even kind of the life of the director too, and what kind of they're going through at around this time. But yeah, this was about the first time I saw this movie in about 10 years or so. I didn't really remember it that well. I just
Oh,
remember
wow.
really enjoying it and being very confused and like it's like strange, like thinking it was strange. And back then, that was kind of like when I was a little bit greener and I wasn't really used to like this whole art house style of like really kind of wacky out
Right.
there movies. Like I was literally just looking for like I mean, I did like weird movies, but it was like Tokyo Gore Police and like those type of like really off the wall Japanese
Yeah.
horror movies and stuff like that. It took me a little bit more
Right.
longer to get into this like kind of art house style, but I do remember enjoying this at the time, and now that I've rewatched it, I enjoyed it quite a bit more. So love it. So I just want to know, since you're a big fan of Evangelion, what was kind of your thought process going into this? Because you said you hadn't really heard about it in the last episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't really heard about this at all. I wanted to go in blind because, again, I'm a big fan of Anno and his work. I haven't actually seen any of his live action movies. The most I have seen of his his animation, namely Evangelion, End of Evangelion. I've watched the Rebuild films, and I've also watched Gunbuster, which is a little anime that is. Probably one of my favorite things he's done other than Evangelion.
You
So I'd
never
recommend,
saw.
if you haven't checked out Gunbuster, check that.
I was gonna say you never saw Shin Godzilla.
No, actually, that's all. That's still on my list. That's one of the ones I really want to see. I actually began watching a bunch of Godzilla movies earlier in the year, and it just sort of fell off. And that's on my list for one of the movies that I need to watch. So, but yeah, I only recently have I become. I guess not recently, as in like this year, but like a couple of years ago is when I watched and finished Evangelion for the first time, and one of the major themes in that show is escaping from reality and the difficulty of connecting with others. And it's really this movie was really interesting to watch because it's basically a whole lot of the themes that are presented here are some of the main central
Yeah,
themes that are explored in Evangelion. Which was really really interesting to see it presented in a different way, because personally believe, and I don't think I'm weird or like not, I don't think it's an unpopular opinion to say that Hideki Anno's writing style better lends itself to a more quiet, like I guess less off the wall style than Evangelion is. Evangelion has this backdrop of like giant robots fighting each other, and action set pieces that need to be inserted into an anime of this genre, while a movie like this is free to explore these themes in a more grounded and mature way that doesn't need to be held up by like the typical anime stuff that you need to sort of check off for your viewer base. That being said, I don't think that Anno made he definitely made compromises while making Evangelion, but I think those compromises led to a superior product and led to like a different direction and
because he was like hired to do a show within like the mech genre, and then like he decided to make it a lot more deeper and philosophical than what you would typically see. And that's what a lot of people like about Evangelion, is that it is a deconstruction of that genre in a similar way that Moral Orel was a deconstruction of like the American sitcom and stuff like that. So
yeah, exactly. So being able to apply these themes to a more straightforward premise, like you can clearly see that he wanted to explore these themes more, especially when you watch this movie, because it's clearly bleeding in all of these ideas of unreality and escapism. They're all present here, and they're all so handled with such maturity and realism that it almost felt dirty watching some of these scenes. Like I never felt like it felt almost like watching someone having a panic attack at some points.
Yeah, no,
it yeah, it was, which happens multiple times, but it really felt incredibly real and raw, in a way that I really wasn't expecting from a movie like this.
Yeah, for sure. And like a lot of those, I love it when it goes into like those animated sequences, or well, you know what I mean. Whenever like she sees like a person from her past, and then like she will not accept that as reality. Oh, the reality distortion around her completely changes to what she's seeing. There's like all these different parts of this movie where she begins talking about this ritual at the beginning, and her process through it, and like throughout the movie, like she slowly gets further and further away from it, but then something like that happens, and then you can see why she had this ritual in the first place, is because when like her imagination is just allowed to like wander like that, it has like these horrible ramifications. And that was the whole thing. Like later on, when you find out more about her family and stuff like that, you start to realize like because like you definitely know in the beginning there's some pain surrounding that stuff, but like it's kind of like a mystery thing where like you're kind of in the shoes of the director, who is like kind of like peeling this back and like learning more about the context. And one thing I really love about this movie is that for a lot of it, it's just those two characters. And when I say that, it's there's not even anybody in the background of any of these shots. Like it's a very lonely and empty kind of vibe that they went with, and it really, really works for what they're trying to get across thematically. And like it's absolutely. And then when people start to enter their lives, especially for the woman, it starts to become disastrous. So I mean, that was one, like the choices that they made. This is an extremely well made movie, like in terms of directing and stuff like that. Like Anno's like visual flair and like just the way he moves the camera and everything. Like it's very it's very meticulous. Like there's so many like amazing shots that are just like even sticking out in my mind. Like there's a lot of scenes where like they're going around the studio that she's living in, and it's all in one continuous shot of you following her with the camera, and it is so masterfully done. Like this is especially for like the time it came out. like this is one of the best looking movies of like that year, especially to come out of Japan from what I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And like to that point, yeah, I totally agree with like the cinematography and the choices for how the camera moves within the space really represents like or makes you feel what the characters are feeling through what you're showing us. The camera is really important, specifically because a lot of there is two different types of shots in this movie, and it's the diegetic shots that the director is recording through his own camera, and then there's like the shots that sort of follow our main characters that are not diegetic. So one of my favorites is when when the woman is spiraling and the director's like trying to calm her down, and we're in the middle of this studio apartment, and I don't know how they have it set up, but the camera is almost set up on like a circular track, and it is just moving backwards over and over while she paces in a circle, and we're following her, but he stays where he is, so it just keeps passing by, and everything, it almost feels like someone's following her, and the anxiety just ramps up and up and up. It's like so little of this movie is the dialogue and the characterization for everyone is incredible, but so much of the emotion you feel in this movie is based on the lighting and the locations and the cinematography. It is just so incredibly well done that everything just sort of falls away and you just get really sucked into it.
Absolutely. And there is a thing where, because we delayed the recording of this podcast a few days, just because like stuff kept coming up for both of us, and I was looking through Hideki Anno's filmography. That's how you say it, right? Hideki.
Hideki Anno. I'm not gonna. After I made fun of you on the last episode, I looked it up, and like multiple people are saying it different ways. So I'm not even gonna touch that.
So I was looking through Hideki Anno's the rest of his filmography, and I was seeing that ever since he made this movie, he's stuck to two different kinds of movies. One of them being Evangelion, like anime movies, and the other being like big special effects movies like Shin Godzilla, and I think he did like a Kamen Rider movie, and he did like things based
Shin
in those
Kamen
big.
Rider.
Yeah, okay, and so but I saw that 2 years before this movie, he did a movie called Love and Pop, which was kind of like, kind of within. I didn't know if it was going to be like in the same genre or anything because it was. But I was intrigued by it because it was kind of like a more grounded, like more low budget, Japanese like live action drama, which from what I've seen is my favorite thing that he's done, in like this favorite like genre. So with I watched Love and Pop, and I actually really liked it. I didn't like it quite as much as Ritual, but it has the same thing with this movie where it's like, it's very expressive with the camera movements and everything, and I would really recommend that if you like Hideaki Anno and just this movie in general. It actually it kind of felt like a Sion Sono movie in a way because it was just very expressive, and it was very sexual, and like it was very artsy, but like also within the themes of being artsy, and it was really funny. So yeah, Love and Pop is another one to check out if you're interested.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would 100% recommend checking that out, because from what I've seen here, I didn't really grasp how well Anno took to live action, like a live action format, which isn't surprising because he's known to be very versatile in how he presents things, and I think it's really interesting. You mentioned that these two characters are pretty much the only two characters that we see for the majority of the movie. There are other characters that come in later, but that is more I get that's more like showing reality beginning to bleed through through the woman's fantasy. So yeah, clear. We the director is our audience surrogate. So we are watching these things happen to the woman through him, and he's a very passive character. Even in the most confrontational scenes, he's not one to like raise his voice or anything. He's very soft spoken, which is it's very easy to see that Anno's self-insert is the director. Like, it's not even like it's not a subtle thing, which is good because I subtlety is something that Anno is he doesn't need to be subtle in this case. It's very much like, this is how I am going to explore this type of person. And he's clearly going through his own stuff, but the main thing is his relationship with this woman, because when you first see her, she is from any standpoint, she is like she looks like the raving lunatic on the side on the corner of the street. She's got makeup all over her face, and she speaks in riddles, and she is very off-putting. But there is something incredibly interesting about her, which is what draws himself to her. And as you sort of peel back the layers, you see this very vulnerable person. And I can speak from experience. It is hard to fall in love with somebody who has baggage like this. Like emotional baggage like this is hard to deal with. And not because it's something you don't want to deal with. It's because it's something you have to deal with if you really care about that person. And I think that's one of the best things I can say about this movie is its portrayal of dealing with a mental illness like this from the other person's perspective, and it's the ups and the downs, and it's the thoughts of, he has thoughts where he's like, I don't like her anymore. I don't enjoy being around her anymore. But like, he still stays because and from a different standpoint, you could almost say he's an idiot for staying, because there's many times that she's openly resentful of him and yells at him and calls him a liar and is scared that he's going to leave her. And to anybody else, that's a crazy person, but she is just hurt and scared, and he, I don't know. I'd never seen a movie portray a character like this so well. Usually it's a little bit more ham-fisted, and a little bit more on the nose, but there's a subtlety here, that is really prevalent whenever you're, even when the things that she's doing are over the top and loud, there is an intense subtlety to it, that I really appreciated.
Yeah. So the contrast between the two of those characters, the woman who's very kind of over the top, and the director who is very just quiet and kind of like subtle within his performance and his just the way he sees the world, and also just the fact that she's constantly speaking in riddles, and he's very kind of direct in his like inner monologues that like they're doing, because they both have inner monologues that you hear throughout the movie, but like the way that the writing is for both of those monologues, I mean, it's kind of opposites in a lot of ways, but it is very thoughtful in both ways. It's just that's the mind of a kind of an eccentric artist who's a little bit more reserved, and the mind of a really over the top woman who's a little bit crazy. And one thing I really like about, like, it's with this movie being told in the format that it is, like every 30 days, or sorry, every day for 30 days. Actually, I think it goes up to 32 by the end, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, something like that. 32 or 33.
Well, yeah, there's a title card at the end that says day 33, unknown or something, and then we don't ever actually see what happens. So I think it was 32 filmed days, but there was yeah, like she has to be like one thing I was really enjoyed was like the way that that character was done and like the costuming and makeup. It was different every single day, and like you start to see like as her mind starts to get a little calmer and a little bit more in tune and like less sporadic, you start to see her dress more like a normal person as she's not doing these rituals. And um and she's actually like very beautiful woman, the person who plays this actress. I want to get into those, like the two people who play these, because it's very interesting, the story about who he casted as these two actors. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like like you see her and she seems crazy, and then like you start to see her and like she starts to become beautiful, and then it's like, oh, okay, this is actually like he was kind of seeing her inner beauty, and then as he stops seeing her inner beauty, like she starts to fade away and go back into that like kind of lifestyle and everything. Like it's very like the different visual things that they do, the use of the color red and the use of the color blue also as contrast. Like red
Yes.
whenever something's like really really fucking intense, like internally, not necessarily like action on screen. And then blue being like that calmness and like the contrast between those two. Like I love all of the visual dynamics between everything that's going on with the characters and their emotions. Like, and it doesn't feel like it's just showing off as like a director being really pretentious. It feels like everything in this movie feels meticulous and like it's telling the story along with just the screenplay itself. Like just the visual
Yeah,
language that he
exactly.
uses in this is so well done, like enormously so. And it was kind of like one of the reasons I was interested in seeing this movie is that like I saw it 10 years ago or something, maybe even longer than that, and I thought it was good. I never heard anybody talk about it, like even big Evangelion fans. I didn't know anybody who really knew about it. And then all of a sudden, I see this movie is creeping into the Letterbox top 250, and I'm like, really? Like this was like I remember it being good, but
Yeah.
like I didn't think anybody ever heard about it. Like I thought it was just one of those obscure Japanese movies that only I had seen, of which there's a lot of. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so I was kind of like surprised that it was getting a little bit of a renaissance, or but I'm happy for it. Like it's very well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's unique in a way that a whole lot of these movies aren't. Um, it never shows too much. It always tells exactly as much as it wants to. It's very deliberate
Mhm.
in revealing its hand. Um, I wanted to bring back. You mentioned the animated segments of this movie, and there's a shot here where the I would say scariest shot in a movie I've seen this year is the shot of her. It's during one of these dream sequences where she's laying down, and her mother. I believe it's a drawing of her is sort of laying behind her, like spooning her, but it's this really grotesque drawing of her, and it sort of warps into like a smile in like a like almost like like it's being pulled in Photoshop or something. It warps to sort of simulate movement, and it was so unnerving watching that. I had to watch it multiple times because it really exceptional way of portraying this anxiety, because like anxiety can be like nervousness. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it's a like you watch like Inside Out 2 and you see how anxiety acts in that. That's a lot of how people think anxiety is. Um, Anxiety can be fucking terror, like blood, like shrieking terror, and that's what comes across for her is like whenever she has to confront these feelings that she has and that she's running away from every day. It is like she is going to die. It has full control of her, like a death grip on her, and without any sort of coping mechanisms, she just sort of regresses into like almost like a childlike state whenever she gets in these
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's like so much of those dream sequences which did kind of remind me of like LSD Dream Simulator or like Inland Empire, the David Lynch movie, and just in the way that they were like,
Yeah.
visually set up. But you know, I would say, unlike something like LSD Dream Simulator, this is like a lot more. There seems to be much like it's not like as much as I could say that this is an art house movie. It's not hard to follow the reasons that these decisions are being made, like these visual decisions. I mean, you do have to
Oh
kind of
yeah.
think a little bit hard about it, but it's not like something where you're confused as an audience member looking into it. Um, like you'll kind of get what
Yeah,
it's going for, and I would
exactly.
say that's true about Evangelion too. Is that like I could see why somebody wouldn't like this movie if it's not their like, because it is like a out there artsy kind of project, but I don't think that you're going to be like confused as to what you're watching. Like it just might not vibe with you in that way, which is totally fine. I mean, there's you know, the best art wouldn't exist if it was appealed to everybody. So I definitely think that's an aspect of this. I want to talk about the main actor and the main actress in this movie. So did you look up anything about them?
Um, not really.
Okay.
No.
So these two people are not actors. The director is a Japanese director. His name is Shunji Iwa. Now, the reason I know who Shunji Iwa is because I run a channel called Obayashi Archive where I upload a bunch of Nobuhiko Obayashi movies, as you know,
Yes.
and some of my audience might know. Um, but I keep getting these comments from people saying that, like, oh man, if you really like Obayashi, you should definitely check out Shunji Iwa's work. And I have seen one movie that he made, which was Love Letter, and that movie was awesome. So, but like, he's not. The point is like, and when he was casting the actor for to play the director, he actually casted a director, like a Japanese director, and it really works because a lot of these scenes, like what they're going for, is is someone who is kind of like reserved and kind of awkward and feels a little bit out of place. But someone who still understands the art of filmmaking, like Shunji Iwa does, and you know, this
Yeah.
like it was a really smart choice to like actually get a director to play the director rather than like a traditional Japanese actor. And the woman in this movie is Ayako Fujitani, I believe that's how you pronounce
Okay.
her name. And she was the writer of the original book that this movie is based off of. So, like, he got the.
Oh.
Yeah. So, he got a Japanese
Oh.
director to play the director, and for the woman, he got the woman that played, or who wrote the book that this story is based off of. And so like there's a level of weird, it's kind of weird like in a way that there's not a whole lot of movies I think like that what movies can you really even think of where like they cast the author of the book as one of the stars as well as a director as one of the
Yeah.
actors, like that's like it's a very interesting kind of weird thing, but it brings this level of authenticity to their performances. Like I think it's way better that he did it this way than it would be if he got like two just like actors or actresses and like made them like perform in this movie. Like there's this weird level of awkwardness with this weird level of authenticity, and I think it really really works. I think both of these two, Shunji Iwa and Ayako Fujitani, they both like really nailed these performances like in ways that you would not expect from if you knew the backstory of like who they were.
Yeah. Like I'm sorry. I'm just looking up Ayako Fujitani right now. She's Steven Seagal's daughter.
What? That I did not know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. She's her mother was an Aikido master that he married and had a child with. That's wild.
That's
Oh my
amazing. That just
god.
makes it better.
Anyway, but yeah, like I totally agree with you. The performances feel incredibly authentic, and I knew that even before you told me what they actually do. he didn't feel EY doesn't really feel like an actor. I think about specifically about the scene where she's confronting her I guess her sister's ex-boyfriend, and he's that guy is an actor. He's very much in your face, and he's yelling at her, and he wants to be there for her and protect her, but he's also standing off in the background. He doesn't really know what to do, and then when he does get involved, it's like, oh no, please just stop. It's enough. It's okay. And it's like he sort of wants to blend into the background like a director would want to do. In any situation like this, if that's your immediate thought, but he doesn't. He it feels like it feels so much more authentic to have someone who is really understands these experiences, and yeah, I had no idea that she was the author of the book. That is another huge thing. Is yeah, like offering those experiences to the most active character in the whole movie, and offering the person who wrote that character to play that character. It is just such an amazing. It's so genius that it's like, oh, of course you get the person who understands it the best, but it's like she's an incredible actress. You could say what you want about EY. He's sort of less. It's toned down. It's not as overstated. But she is just an incredible actress. She has some incredible range that she shows off here, and yeah, the casting was immaculate.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually I was looking at her other acting roles, and she has a few. She was in the horror, not the horror, but the anthology movie Tokyo, which I've heard about, which is 3 different segments, one from Michael Gondry, another from Bong Joon-ho, and another from a French director. I can't remember his name right now. And I've been meaning to watch that movie for a long time. So, yeah, okay, I guess that's something else to check her out in. And, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she's very well casted in this movie. And, it's the thing where, I've heard of directors on some occasion, they bring in the screenwriters of the original novels or whatever for creative consultant and stuff like that. But with them actually casting her and having her be an on-screen presence and her absolutely nailing the job, it brings this different level to it that you would not get in a lot of other places. And I can't even think of another movie that did that. But maybe more movies should do that if this is any indication.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very easy to look at this and think that's it's very easy to look at this and think that you can do that, but you really need to find it's like a perfect balance of authenticity and experience, because if you put all of your faith on the authenticity, then you could have a lackluster performance. We talked about Dancing It's On, and all of that is a movie exclusively about dancers with a cast entirely populated with dancers, and that it does not work because these people don't know how to act. But when you have a movie like this with such subtle, understated performances, why not shoot for that level of authenticity? It's almost a no-brainer.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could say it's a no-brainer. It's also a huge risk that a director and an author putting them in the main acting role of a movie, it's not something that's traditional. I think EY maybe had a few other acting roles. I'm not sure. I know he's definitely more known as a director, but
yeah.
Actually, I'm looking. It seems like he maybe did a few short films, but this is one of the few where he was actually acting as the main star in a feature.
Oh yeah.
And again, yeah, you could say I mean, the character is supposed to be kind of awkward and a little bit distant. So I mean, like you could say like he feels like, but it's weird because it's not in a bad way. The way that like he stumbles through some of this and he feels kind of like awkward on camera, like it really works. Like it's very it's smart directing, and I'm not even sure why he would like take on this project. I'm glad he did, and yeah, it's just this thing where there's so many interesting choices that make this movie. Uh, this could have fallen apart like with like any of those choices that they made, but it doesn't. Like it manages to keep going and like not only work but like make it better. I'd say with like the way that they approach these type of creative decisions, and that just goes true with like the cinematography too. Like it could have been like a very show offy, uh, not really meaning a whole
Yeah.
lot type of thing. Like it's very well made, and to be honest, like when I watched Love and Pop, I did feel like it was a little bit show offy. I mean, it was still for a purpose, but like it was a lot more in your face than like this movie is with its directing. But like there is so much and it doesn't really take away from Love and Pop. I would just say that I prefer this approach of Ritual, where I feel like he really knew where, when, and how to shoot everything, and like what contrast to use, and just even the transitions. Like if you like all the outdoor shots, like this looks like the most bland, normal Japanese city you could ever find, and then they go inside, and it's like, oh, there's like a flooding, and there's like a race car track. There's like all these different
Yeah.
like you know parts of her apartment that are like red, and like it has all these different props and shit, and it's all really really well done. I just yeah, there's very little that I did not like about this movie.
Yeah, it's so meticulous. Like everything has been planned out to a T. Like even like the placement of every time we go down in the flooded basement, she always has like hundreds of red umbrellas oriented in a different way. And it's almost depending on how the scene is going, how these are oriented. Like sometimes they're hanging from the ceiling, sometimes they're lined up along the walls, and like everything is in its place. Like nothing feels like it doesn't feel like there was a single part of this movie where Anna was like, "Oh well, we don't need to worry about that," or "Oh, that's not important." Like everything was so important to make a full painting here.
Yeah, and it's I
Yeah.
was just gonna say it's interesting too because like she is a very messy character, and she's kind of like living within her own filth, and like she's
Yeah.
unorganized. But I mean, you can tell by the way that it's shot, like the mess that he filmed was very much. I mean, it sounds kind of weird to say it like this, but like the mess that he filmed was definitely trying to be the type of mess that it was, and it was totally, everything was, all the props and everything were everywhere where they got the most out of it by the way that the movie was shot. Like this is an amazingly directed movie. I think it was hard for me to articulate that, but I think you get what I mean. So,
Yeah,
like the
exactly.
mess is very
It's yeah,
yeah, meticulous.
yeah, exactly. It's like it's not just like throwing everything everywhere and saying it's a messy room. It's realizing what is messy and how it is messy and what she cares about and what she doesn't care about in her own space. And yeah, that whole room tells a story.
Yeah,
uh there's yeah, like you can tell where she put in effort to make what she thinks is important the like stand out. She's got these like the color red again has this big importance to her, so most of the things in this room are red. The light is red. The she has multiple like rotary or like landline bright red telephones that she uses to listen to voice messages from her mother. over and over again on loop, talking back to her. It's you can tell she has so many because she has these outbursts where she destroys them. You find out like very subtly, just as the movie goes on, that where she sleeps, she barely ever sleeps, but when she sleeps, it's in these like almost like these office dividers surrounding her bed, and you find out that on the inside, all of these dividers are just, it's a full collage of photos of her family and growing up, and it's all just sort of surrounding her and overwhelming her whenever she tries to sleep. And then as she starts to come out of her shell and trust the director a little bit more, that moves. The bed is exposed in this white section of the room, and now all of these walls show these pictures. And it sort of shows how she has changed over the course of those days. Like, everything is so incredibly, like, every detail is picked apart to like ad nauseum to make the most fully realized world and scene that they possibly can.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing, like one thing that I really like about like the way that it does tell the story of the girl or the woman, whatever you want to call her, it is like this thing where there's like I've talked to you about not really being the biggest fan of Evangelion, and one of the reasons, very much the main reason, is that I don't like the characters very much outside of Masato. And this was a thing where like I could have seen this girl delving into like unlikable territory, and I think for some people she probably will delve into unlikable territory, and some people might not be able to sympathize with her. But like throughout this entire thing, it's just like, for me anyway, like even when she was like yelling and freaking out and having all these like dramatic episodes, and I couldn't even justify what she was doing or saying to the director, or how she was treating her like past family members that we come to learn about. There is a part of me when I watch this, I'm just like, man, I really hope things work out for her in the end. And it was this thing where like it's some this. I think Anno is very sympathetic towards people with mental health issues, which is nice to see, especially
absolutely,
especially in Japan. It's very nice to see like people who are like sensitive to those type of things, because there's a lot of insensitivity that surrounds it. Again, that's not even just slight at Japan. Like I know a lot of places, even the country that we live in, is not the greatest with mental health. But like it's and if we are the greatest with mental health, that's just because the bar worldwide is very low. But this whole thing about it really teaches you to kind of sympathize with her in a way, and she's not the type of character that I would necessarily want to be around physically, like the director is. But it is the type of character that, from an arm's length, it's like, okay, I hope you get better and I hope you do well, and I seriously am interested in her journey, and like you can tell why the director is intrigued by her. You can also tell why the director is getting tired of her as the movie goes on. Like it's very easy to see these two different things, and it's just a very complicated character study, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, and I told myself I wasn't going to talk too much about Evangelion because I really want to look into this as a like aside from all of Anno's other work. But when you look, if you have to compare it, the character of the director and the woman really make me think of thematically of Shinji and Asuka, because Asuka is this abrasive bully of a character that really she it's not quite the same for her. It's more of a superiority complex. Like she has to be better than everyone else because of her trauma. Whereas the woman, she very much just needs to push other people away, and justify her own existence every single day, and make a conscious decision to not like end everything every single day. Shinji and the director, the similarities are very prevalent. He has a large emptiness in his life that he's trying to fill with something, and that is, in this case, that's the woman, and his interest in her is sort of the most complicated part, because like interest is very much where this starts. He thinks that she's intriguing, which is, I guess, when you think about like the manic pixie dream girl trope in movies, it's like, yeah, you're interesting, you're different, you're not like other girls. It's almost like poking fun at that in 2000. It's like yeah, you see this woman just like fucked out of her mind, makeup all over her face, wearing tattered robes, laying on the train tracks, and you're like, ooh, you're interesting, you're mysterious. And like he's so lonely, it seems, because he's in his hometown, and he's constantly on the phone for work. But he doesn't ever seem to be talking to like loved ones or family. I don't know if they even bring up if he's ever spoken with them in that, like, during the movie. The only real other people he talks to is the woman and the couple other characters we see near the end.
Yeah, well, he goes out with his friends at one point, but I mean, yeah, there is this kind of this kind of like implication of like, okay, he's coming back to his hometown, but he's just spending all this time with this like woman that he's never met. Like, there is kind of like this implication that there's something that he can see in the woman in terms of like the dysfunctional family dynamic, and maybe in his case he just kind of shut down. But like, yeah, I definitely think that that's a part of why this guy is intrigued to her. But again, you could look into that in a bunch of different ways, and I'm really glad that they didn't like over-explain, and they left a lot of that up to interpretation and mystery.
Yeah, exactly. Like any other movie would at the hour 30 mark would jump into the flashbacks and show all of the things that happen to make each of these characters who they are. And while that's satisfying, I guess that would be a satisfying thing to do, to explain what's going on with these characters, it's a lot more interesting to put out the subtext and have you read between the lines and not feel like catered to or babied. I don't know, I think it's the best way they could have possibly done it.
Yeah, I do too. And I also like at the end, yeah. I don't know if you watched till after the credits, but like I was saying, like day 33, and it said like unknown. So like now that the woman like breaks out of her cycle in the last act by like having that talk with her mother, and she's finally like ready to move on from this like ritual that she's been doing, like it, and you know, what future do they have together? Does the director and the woman stay together? Do they go their separate ways? Like, does the director just go back and keep working on movies like he was? Like, it's open to interpretation, and I like that. I like that, you know, this was a very limited window into both of their lives, and it gives us a lot to interpret about it. But you know, I think that there is a lot to, like little seeds here and there, like you were saying with the room and stuff, telling this story, and yeah, it's very much, it's not just like open to interpretation and where it's like you don't feel like there's nothing to go off of. Like there's stuff that you can actually read into by like looking around and like picking up the idiosyncrasies of the characters and the props and the rooms and everything like that.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad you brought up the talk with her mother. When we finally see her mother, it's such a through the entire movie we're seeing these interpretations of her mother that we see everywhere, as this horrible abusive person, and it's very interesting because you could go either one of two. Any other director would go one of two ways. They would stick to that idea and portray this person as a monster, or they could flip the script and the abusive nature of that we've sort of perceived has been a lie. And it's not that sort of neither of that happens. When we have that meeting with her mother, she sounds remorseful for what exactly was done to her while she was a child or when she was young. But a lot of these things, it's like she's still selfish. She says that she wants her to come back because she's lonely and she doesn't have anybody, and it's very realistic. It's like, it's not, I was wrong and I shouldn't have done all of that and everything is my fault. She still holds on to a like selfishness. It's a very that whole scene is incredibly raw and real. It really felt like a mother and daughter sort of trying to reconcile. And that's the best part, is again, when you talk about like the open-endedness, we never see if they even really make up in the end. It's they could never speak again. But what we saw was the closure of the fantasy,
the ritual.
Yeah, exactly. Once she was able to speak to her mother and get these feelings out, the ritual was no longer needed.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of themes in this about loneliness from like her and like the director even, and just like, family, and the family. A lot of times the family can make you feel more lonely than just being alone by your own. So if you don't have a good relationship with them anyway, so. There's so many like interesting perspectives. It's kind of like, it's a very philosophical, like smart movie that I was totally surprised when I first saw it because I didn't know what I was getting into, and all these years later, I'm still impressed.
Yeah, no, again, this has really opened my eyes to really checking out. Like you thought, I in my brain, Hideki Anno is an anime director, but this has really put in my mind that this guy's like an auteur. He is a filmmaker with a capital F. He understands the medium so well. He's honestly one of the most gifted storytellers of any generation. I would say that he is. I know that's a bit bombastic and over the top, but that's just me. I think
a lot of people agree with you.
He's really incredible.
I mean, given like the success and talk about Evangelion, and actually talking about just animation and live action and kind of those two. So this movie was produced by Studio Kajino, and I looked into that studio, and that's actually a subsidiary of Studio Ghibli, which they made to create live action movies. And this was one of the only 2 live action movies that they ended up making. So, like, the other one was...
That's so weird.
Another movie called Sator Rare. So, they pretty much, they made this studio, they pumped out a masterpiece with this movie. I don't know how their other movie is. And then they just stopped making live action movies. So, I mean, they made a few music videos under the studio, but those were the 2 films. But.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's like, I guess, retire on top, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing I wanted to say is the music in this movie was composed by Takashi Kako. I think that's how you say his name. I'm not really too familiar with his other work, but you can find the whole soundtrack for this, or the whole score for this, on YouTube for free, and I highly recommend you do, because like even just on their own, they're beautiful piano pieces. Like it was so atmospheric and it works really well in the movie. But yeah, I was listening to some of them just independently of the movie afterward, and they're still just really, really beautiful scores. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything about this movie is really incredible. Well, I'm honestly surprised that it's never got any sort of official American release. I really had to dig to find a copy of this to watch. Maybe watch it on something a little bit more unsavory than your usual streaming service, but who am I to say? I would really highly recommend watching this because I would love more people to talk about this. I know you already said that it's climbing up the letterbox rankings, and I would love this to be more of a well-known movie, especially considering the people who are the director in charge of it is one of the most prolific anime directors of all time. You'd think that this would be a whole lot more, I don't know, available to other people, but I don't know. It's really flown under the radar of the international audience. But I think it definitely deserves its time in the sun.
Yeah, me too. I totally agree. And I'm looking because apparently in July of 2020 it was released video on demand by King Records. I don't.
Oh,
So I guess that there is some sort of like international release for it. I think it might be available to like purchase on Amazon. That might have been Love and Pop actually that he was able to purchase on Amazon. But yeah, I did the.
yeah,
I kind of took the shadier route because I figured it would be a little bit easier. So, but
yeah.
but it's okay because we get to come on here and promote it, and it's all worth it for the greater good.
Yes, for the greater good. Oh, well, yeah. Unless there's anything else you wanted to mention, I think that I've said my piece on The Ritual. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much done saying whatever I have to say about it too. It was yeah,
All
I
right.
definitely highly recommend checking it out to everybody.
Yes, please check this movie out. Again, it's not nearly it's very slept on, and I think everyone should check it out.
And Steven Seagal's daughter is a better actor than he is, so.
She really is. I don't know how someone that good at acting was born from Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, it's Happy New Year, everybody. If we this is the end of the 2024 run of the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast, and as such, before we wrap up and give our recommendation for next month, I thought we could go through all of the movies we've watched this year and sort of talk about what the best one for the best Unrealistic Elephant Podcast movie of 2024 might be. So I guess I'll give you the floor first, and we'll see if we can maybe come to a consensus.
I think we can both agree that the best one was The Beat. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
But
say.
no, no, but for me, like, I can't not pick Love Exposure. That's one of my favorite. That'd be in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. So, like, yeah, there's very little that would ever top Love Exposure for me. Then yeah, that's a very easy choice for me, both in terms of what we watched this year and also last year.
I'd be inclined to agree with you. Love Exposure is a really incredible movie. In this case, I am going to give. I guess Love Exposure in the end would win because combined with your vote, it would definitely win for best Unrealistic Elephant Podcast movie of the year, the prestigious award. The only other movie I would tie it with is probably Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas because of how much I really fell in love with that movie again. I watched it. I actually want to watch it again on my new big my big 4K amazing TV. It's one of those movies I can't get out of my head. So I would say it would be a tie between Love Exposure and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah, for me, if I were to pick a second favorite, it would either be Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas or Sherlock Jr. Those are the two kind of runners-up.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I guess, congratulations to Love Exposure for winning the prestigious Unrealistic Elephant Podcast Best of 2024. You deserve it. You deserve it with all 8 hours of your runtime or something.
4, but I've watched it more than once, so I mean, the amount of hours I have watched Love Exposure have added up over the years. So
yeah, there we go. All right, and I guess if we want to rank, including all of the episodes that we've done, would you say Love Exposure is still the best movie we've watched, or would you say that Harakiri is still better?
I prefer Love Exposure. I'm not going to say that it's better than Harakiri. I'm just going to say that I personally like it more, and that's just me.
I think I'm going to agree with you. I would say that Harakiri is probably the better movie, but Love Exposure is the one I like more.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Still goes to Love Exposure.
Yeah, same.
Awesome. Perfect. So, do you have a movie for us? Because I have one if you don't. You chose this one.
Yeah, well, I was going to let you go, but I do have a movie if you don't want to recommend your one.
No, I do. I have a couple. I was just... Honestly, this is the time where I was prepared because I've got a couple of options. Tell you what, I'm going to dive in and I'm going to take a look at my watch list because there was a movie. Yes, okay. So, the movie that I would like to watch with you for our episode in January is a movie from 1973. You want to talk about art movies? This is probably the most artsy-fartsy thing you could possibly think of. From 1973 by Alejandro Jodorowsky. It is The Holy Mountain.
Awesome. Sweet.
I haven't seen this movie in forever, but I remember it being a fucking experience. So I am very excited to watch it again.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it again too. I've seen it once, and I've been meaning to give it a rewatch, and this is going to be a great opportunity to do that.
Perfect.
So,
you're honestly, I'm looking at the list that I had, the list of movies that I wanted to recommend, and I knew that just in the moment I was going to recommend one. And the second place runner up, you're so glad I didn't pick that because oh my god.
Well, that's going to be another episode, so don't let me know yet. But...
yeah, you'll get it. All right. Well, from us at the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast, we hope you have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah,
Happy Kwanzaa. I'm going to Africa, so...
Happy Kwanzaa. You're going to Africa. You're going on a big globe-trotting adventure, aren't you?
Yeah, I certainly am.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to tell me all about it when we come back in January, and once we've both seen Holy Mountain.
Yeah, depends on when you record. It might be easier to record it before I go to Africa, but we'll see.
Yeah, honestly, that probably would be a little bit easier.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, again, from us, thank you very much for listening. Have a happy holidays and a very happy new year. And we will see you again in 2025. So, see you next time.
Yeah, and happy birthday if it's tomorrow. I don't know.
It is my birthday.
Yeah, well, that'll be 3 days before this comes out, but, happy birthday, Nathan.
Yeah.
Sure.
Happy birthday, me. See y'all later.